Now, a lot of the beautiful flowers and plants you can see around me, they're starting to disappear. They're starting to die down because we're in the third week of October. That could be a bit sad, could be a bit upsetting, but it doesn't need to be because we've got bulbs. We've got lots and lots of bulbs, and you can plant bulbs this time of year. And I always say, when you plant a bulb, you plant a promise, because in the middle of every bulb, there's already a little embryonic flower just waiting to grow. And when you plant bulbs, it's the excitement, isn't it, of the anticipation of spring. So even after all this is gone and disappeared, you know, come spring, colour's going to return. And in fact, a riot of colour with the selection of bulbs we've got here. So in the last few weeks, I've been buying bulbs from various places. Although it's quite late in the season, there's a lot of bulbs available. And sometimes if you buy them quite late, they start to discount them. So you can buy a lot of bulbs for quite a cheap price. And I've just divided up my little cache of bulbs here into different categories for different areas. And the first one I'm going to start with is bulbs that I think are really fantastic for pots. And one of my favourites is definitely hyacinths. Hyacinths come in a stunning array of colours. You've got purples, you've got whites, you've got yellows, you've got mauves, you've got incredible colour range on these. And of course, you've got that really, really beautiful fragrance. And they grow. Anemone decaying are fantastic in pots. They grow well in beds and borders in quite nice open sunny positions, but they do make a fantastic bulb or a corm for a pot. They flower for a long period of time. They also make really, really lovely cut flowers. And they do have a kind of a bit of a weird habit in that sometimes they might send up a flower at a really obscure and unexpected time of year. They've got lovely feathery foliage as well that surrounds these beautiful flowers, and these lovely sort of black buttons in the middle, almost a little bit reminiscent of poppies in one sense. But these are easy to grow. They'll spread, they'll come back year after year after year. As I say, they make great cut flowers, and they're just an absolute joy to grow in pots or in the garden. Spiraxis, or harlequin flower. These are great bulbs, originate from South Africa, and they can be a little bit tender in really, really cold gardens, and they hate really heavy, wet soil. So I always say grow these in pots, grow them in pots, add some extra grit or perlite or something to the compost to create that fantastic drainage. Put the pots up on pot feet and grow these in pots in a really, really sunny position. Make sure the pots don't freeze solid in the winter, so keep them frost free or prevent them from freezing solid. And then in the spring, put them somewhere sunny and bright, and these beautiful, delicate, stunning flowers in a range of colours will flower for you for a good 4 to 6 weeks and bring a real kind of feel of the exotic and tropical to your garden planting. You might have really hot, dry soil on a south-facing border on a south side of the house, and some bulbs, they hate being hot and dry, but alliums, they adore being hot and dry, and they will grow in quite poor soils as well. They come back year after year, and they come in an amazing range of forms and quite a few different colours. You can get whites, you can get purples, you can get this reddish colour. These ones are allium, and I can never say this word, allium sphelocephalon or something like that. I've always struggled to say that, but drumstick alliums, that's the common name. That's the easiest thing to remember. And here you've got your larger kind of alliums as well. I mean, some of these, the flower heads, can be the size of tennis balls when they flower, and they look good for a number of weeks. And the good thing about all alliums is, even once they're finished flowering, the faded flower heads still look really structural. So don't deadhead them. Enjoy those structural seed heads in the garden, and you can even cut them and use them in indoor dried flower displays as well. So if you've got somewhere hot and dry and not particularly good soil, try alliums. Reliable, beautiful, come up every year, and will flower late spring into midsummer. Now the next bulbs we've got are ones that I call good spreaders. They really will spread all over the place, or technically the name is naturalize. So, you know, they're the sort of bulbs that you see spread in beds and borders and lawns, and you don't really do much with them. They just get left there year after year after year, but somehow they seem to multiply. They just seem to increase year on year. And two of my favourite candidates for this are crocuses and anemone blanda. Crocus is one of the earliest bulbs to flower, or strictly speaking, corms, and a range of gorgeous colours, yellows, purples, whites. Some are striped, for example. Dead easy to grow, really, really hardy. Will grow in a little bit of shade, will grow in full sun, will grow in pots, beds and borders. Look fantastic growing in grass though, because it's really lovely to see these beautiful cup-shaped flowers opening up on a sunny day in spring amongst all the grass and the dandelions and the daisies. Really, really charming. and anemone blanda. I've started growing these in the last few years. Ah, gorgeous, gorgeous pink colours, purple colours, white colours. And when the sun pops out, these beautiful daisies just open up their petals. And when you get a carpet of these on a spring day, they're absolutely fantastic. And I've even seen these grow on top of the soil, not even being buried. They are so tough, so hardy. In fact, one of them even grew in the stem of one of my tree ferns, and it actually flowered. I don't know how it got there. It must have seeded itself there, but it did. So if you want two fantastic plants that are going to be great for naturalizing or spreading about in the garden, be it in the beds and borders or the lawn areas, go for either crocus or anemone blanda, or even better, go for both. We spoke about alliums being really happy in very hot, dry soil, which they are, but some bulbs, they don't like that at all. And I've got three gorgeous bulbs that actually do very well in shade and lovely damp soil. They like to stay damp all the year through. And once they die down, they sit under the soil and then they come back and they flower. And one of those is Fritillaria. There's various varieties of Fritillaria. In fact, in the UK and many parts of the world, you get wild species of these that come up in meadows, damp areas, near rivers, all those kind of places. And these are such charming, beguiling flowers that come up about May time, delicate little heads that just hang and swing in the breeze. Year on year, they'll spread, they'll multiply, but they'll just give you so much joy in the spring with these beautiful, beautiful flowers. Yellow centres here with the purple on the outside. An absolutely beautiful, beautiful bulb to grow. Snowdrops, just one of the most classic bulbs for shade and one of the very first to flower in the year. And there are just so many types of snowdrop, from singles to doubles. Some are green, some are a yellowish colour, most are white, and some cost hundreds if not thousands of pounds, and people go absolutely mad and berserk collecting all different types of snowdrops. It's almost like the equivalent of tulip mania back in Holland in the day. But if you just want some gorgeous single snowdrops, so easy to grow, plant them somewhere really damp, give them a little bit of shade. They're great underneath other shrubs, they're great underneath trees and those sorts of places. As long as they've got a nice damp rich soil full of organic matter, they'll come back year after year after year. They'll spread, they'll multiply, and every so many years you can dig them up, you can split them, and you can divide them. And the best time to do this is when they're in what's known in the green. So immediately the flowers have gone over, that's the time to lift them, break up those congested clumps into groups of 2 or 3, replant them to the same depth, and you can just transplant them to other parts of the garden. But snowdrops really, really are the harbingers of spring. They're the sort of plants that just say hello in springtime. Spring is coming, and they'll just give you that little smile and that little tinge of excitement in your tummy that longer days, more beautiful days, and more colour is on the way. Pushkinia or striped squill. These are one of my favourite little bulbs. These flower pretty much before anything else comes out. They're not quite as early as snowdrops, but I've seen these flowering in damp soil, in really kind of nice organic-y, earthy soil, in sort of, I don't know, areas that just sit really, really damp. And they flower probably late February into March. And when you see these brave little flowers on a late winter, early spring day, just showing their gorgeous, gorgeous multi-headed flowers with their lovely, lovely green leaves, they're a real pick-me-up. Easy to grow, they spread, they come back year after year after year. The bulbs are only tiny, but don't worry about that. They'll establish themselves, they'll keep coming back, and they'll just bring you lots and lots of joy. These are blue, but I've seen them in white and pink as well. The choice is yours, but they're easy to grow and they're a real, real joy. My final selection are what I call good doers, kind of general ones that you can grow practically anywhere, kind of the mainstay of bulbs. And for me, there are narcissus or daffodil, Dutch Irish and tulip. All beautiful, all stunning, all easy to grow. The narcissus will be the first to flower, March, perhaps into late March, very early April. Then you've got the tulips that are going to flower April into May. And then the Dutch irises that come a little bit later, perhaps May into June. All these are very undemanding. They just like well-drained soil, somewhere sunny, somewhere open. They'll come back year after year after year. Fabulous for pots, troughs, or just plant them in the garden wherever you want. But they are really the mainstay of the bulbs, as I say, straightforward, easy to grow, bringing you colour. And of course the tulips make incredible cut flowers as well, as do the Dutch iris. So a really great range of bulbs just for general beds and borders, but bringing years and years of delightful colour and interest. So I've shared lots of my favourite bulbs with you today and showed you lots of different bulbs. Just to summarise, there's one thing that all bulbs like, even if they like damp soil, they still like good drainage. No bulbs like to sit in really wet, soaking soil. They'll rot off. So always make sure, even with snowdrops, for example, keep them damp, but never let them sit in actual water itself. Another important thing to allow with all bulbs as well is for the foliage to die down after flowering. I know it can be a bit annoying seeing that horrible foliage for weeks and weeks or a couple of months afterwards. It gradually turns yellow and then brown and dies down. But that is so important, because those leaves that are there after the flowers are finished will put energy back into the bulb or that corm and produce that little embryonic flower ready to come back next year. So resist the temptation to remove those leaves. Just put up with them for a while, because it will be worth it the following year. And planting, you hear a lot, don't you, about planting bulbs. Overall, I would say don't panic about it. Don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. I've planted bulbs too deep, too shallow. I've seen people plant bulbs upside down, sideways. One way or another, they always orientate themselves. They always come back. They always grow. They want to survive. Plants are survivors. But if you kind of want a guide, what you generally need is about 3 times as much soil over the top of the bulb as the height of the bulb itself. So in simple terms, if this tulip bulb is an inch high from base to tip, you just need another 3 inches of soil on top as the planting depth. But other than that, as I say, don't sweat it. Just enjoy all these beautiful bulbs. I mean, there's so many different types here to bring so much joy to so many different parts of the garden. And just plant them now and just smile to yourself knowing that come spring and next summer, you're going to see these beautiful flowers for weeks and weeks on end.